Oh, the camera. Created by, written, and starring Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and based on her one-woman show of the same name, Fleabag tells the story of a woman headed for rock bottom as she navigates the broken relationships she has with everybody in her life. It's a comedy?
Do you want to take your coat off?
No.
Okay.
In case you hadn't already guessed, this video is going to contain spoilers for the entirety of Fleabag. Now, if you haven't seen it, the entire runtime of the show, all 12 episodes, is about 5 hours, and I'll still be here when you get back. Fleabag is somewhat of a tale of two seasons. The second season is, and I'm just gonna quote a friend of mine, literally a perfect season of TV. That's not to say that the first season is bad. It's not, it's good, but it's complicated. The most present stylistic choice in Fleabag is that the main character constantly breaks the fourth wall, whether to exposit some background information, to enrich the moment.
Hello, Claire speaking.
Mum died 3 years ago. She had a double mastectomy, but never really recovered. It was particularly hard because she had amazing boobs.
To express her feelings.
That was a joke.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay. That was like, oh, okay. Great. Wow.
Or simply glance our way to acknowledge the absurdity of the situation that she's found herself in. The device is established almost immediately in the show.
You know that feeling when a guy you like sends you a text at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday night asking if he can come and find you, and you've accidentally made it out like you've just got in yourself, so you have to get out of bed, drink half a bottle of wine, get in the shower, shave everything, dig out some agent provocateur business, suspend about the whole bit, and wait by the door until the buzzer goes. And then you open the door to him like you've almost forgotten he's coming over. Oh. Hi.
Hey. The fourth wall describes the barrier between a work of fiction and the audience of that fiction. Originally, it was a theater term to describe the invisible wall created by the proscenium that separated the stage from the audience. It just simply refers to the separation of a work of fiction and the audience of that fiction. I like to think of the concept of breaking the fourth wall as any time a work of fiction reminds the audience that they themselves are present and watching or reading a piece of fiction. Deadpool is probably the highest profile character who is known for breaking the fourth wall. And he doesn't just break the fourth wall by addressing the audience directly, he breaks the fourth wall because he knows he himself is a fictional character. But unlike Deadpool, Fleabag doesn't know she's a fictional character. So the question becomes, is her breaking the fourth wall just a stylistic choice, or is it something more? At first I thought the early episodes almost overused the device, using it for exposition when that exposition could be delivered to the audience in a more naturalistic or traditional way.
Dad's way of coping with 2 motherless daughters was to buy us tickets to feminist lectures, start f***ing our godmother, and eventually stop calling.
But I realized it connects her to the audience in a way that she isn't connecting to the characters around her. She's isolating herself from the world and using the audience and the fourth wall to do it. She isn't an omnipotent narrator. She's telling us her inner thoughts, her inner dialogue. She's relaying how she sees the world to the audience. And it quickly becomes clear that the version of herself that she presents to the audience is different than the version of herself that she presents to the other characters.
I'm just gonna ask her. I'm just gonna ask her. Just gonna come.
Do you need to borrow money?
No. Oh, God, he can't believe how attractive I am. Kind of worried I'm gonna make a sex offender out of the poor guy. Here we go. This better be good. Here we go.
Walk of shame.
You won't eat it.
Thanks. So,
Her unearned confidence to camera is never more clear than at the end of the second episode.
Forever.
Harry leaves her again, and she spies the dinosaur that he's always left behind as an excuse to come back.
He'll be back.
And she confidently notes to camera its presence and the implication of it. And although she tries to hide the truth from the camera, she can't escape it. It's omnipresent. It travels around her no matter where she looks. We're always there watching. But it doesn't represent us or an invisible audience that she's talking to. The camera is her coping mechanism that she's using as a way to hide from the guilt that she feels for the death of her friend. By lying to us about the state of her life, she's lying to herself. There are two characters with whom she never breaks the fourth wall. The first and most obvious is Boo, and that makes sense. Fleabag would not yet have the guilt the fourth wall represents while Boo was alive. But the second character is the banker, and this is really fascinating to me. The banker is the only person she's actually able to be honest with. In their 3 interactions, she isn't trying to convince anyone that she's not struggling. She doesn't have to lie to herself about her own failures. She sees herself reflected in him in a way that she can drop her guard and finally be truly honest.
I just want to cry all the time.
The camera being a representation of her guilt also explains what starts off seeming like purely expository asides. The guilt is relatively new in her life. Since Boo died after Fleabag's mother, it would make sense for her to have to explain her mother's death to it. To try and explain all the messed up things in her life aside from Boo's death to justify any other reason she might be feeling that way. Throughout the first season, there are hints at her part in the events that drove Boo to step into the bike lane, but she constantly pushes them aside and hides them from the audience, unable to admit to herself or the audience the source of the guilt that she feels. Only when Claire calls her out for it specifically in the final episode of the season does it finally catch up with her.
How can I believe you?
Because I'm your sister.
After what you did to Boo?
There is no scene that highlights that the camera is her guilt more than this one. She looks directly to the camera in horror, finally unable to escape. The brilliant reverse cut here shows just how unavoidable this ultimately is.
He said it with someone else, he said...
The camera pushes into her as she tries to retreat.
I think I love him.
Finally forced to reconcile with the sins of her past. This is rock bottom. But it's not the last time someone looks directly in the lens. Standing on the curb, Fleabag is reliving the final moments of her friend's life, but Boo is seen staring directly into the camera, directly at Fleabag. For her part, Fleabag never looks directly back at Boo. The moment is interrupted by the banker who pulls up to ask if she's okay. He once again becomes the vehicle for Fleabag to unburden her true feelings, the one she's been hiding from the audience for the entirety of the season.
You know, everyone feels like this a little bit and they're just not talking about it. Or I am completely f***ing alone.
Season 1 is good. Season 1 is great. But in retrospect, when you're first experiencing it, it can be hard to watch. It's deeply sad and often uncomfortable. But it's not until you understand why it's deeply sad and uncomfortable that you can truly appreciate the things that the character has been dealing with the entire time. So if the camera represents the wall that Fleabag has built around herself to protect her from the guilt that she feels from the death of Boo, and it comes crumbling down at the end of the season, what does the camera represent in season 2? The first episode of the second season takes place a year after the end of the first. There's some brief exposition from Fleabag to the camera.
Haven't seen her since. Except for.
Nice jumpsuit.
Thank you.
You look well. Where have you been?
Boots. It's lovely there this time of year.
Setting up the current status quo of the relationships, but notably it starts with,
This is a love story.
and with just a single line, Fleabag's entire relationship with the camera has changed. She's showing omnipotence to the events of the season that have not yet happened for the character herself. The show spent the first season building her relationship to the audience and the camera, and then used that relationship to subvert the expectations of it. From the moment the priest is introduced, there's something different about his relationship with Fleabag. She makes an aside to camera, and he immediately senses her lack of participation and addresses her.
No one's asked me a question in 45 minutes.
So what do you do?
And from this point forward, the triangle between Fleabag, the priest, and the audience only becomes more complex.
Yes, it is. It really is. It actually is.
Both Fleabag and the priest are complex characters dealing with personal demons and connecting with an invisible entity. For Fleabag, it's the audience, and for the priest, it's God. But since the show has put the audience inside the mind of Fleabag and given us access to her most personal and intimate thoughts, our relationship with her character feels intimate, feels like a close personal friendship.
I have friends.
Oh, so you do have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Do you see them a lot?
Oh, they're always there. They're always there.
So when she glances our way and the priest notices it,
Will last a week.
What was that?
it feels like an intrusion into our relationship with the character.
Where did you just go?
What?
You just went somewhere. There. Where'd you just go?
Nowhere.
But also shows the deep personal connection between Fleabag and the priest. It helps to immediately establish that their connection is far more than lust based on physical appearance, but rather a deep emotional connection that transcends everything else, including Fleabag's relationship with us. She starts to confuse her inner monologue, her dialogue with the audience, and her interactions with the priest.
Have you been to many funerals?
A couple. His neck.
And you never felt them go somewhere?
No, they were already gone. His beautiful neck.
What?
What?
You just said his beautiful neck.
No, I said that they were already gone.
The priest begins to insert himself between Fleabag and the audience, directly calling her out on glances our way and even looking directly at us.
Nothing. Nothing. No, stop being so churchy.
I'm not being churchy, I'm just trying to get to know you.
I don't want that.
Fleabag is not comfortable with the idea of letting the priest into her relationship with us because of what it represents. She is unwilling to tell him about Boo, and despite how strong and immediate their love for each other is, she never does. Throughout the first season, her relationship with the camera was in a sense her relationship with Boo. It was the guilt she felt for the friendship that she had lost. But in the second season, it's revealed to be so much more. It's stated at several points in this series how much Fleabag takes after her late mother.
You get all that from your mother.
It's the reason her father struggles so much to talk to her. It's why Godmother is so antagonistic towards her.
And you've got a lovely thick neck.
Boo was there for her after her mother died, and when Boo died, it was almost like losing her mother for a second time.
I don't know what to do with it.
With what?
With all the love I have for her. I don't know where to put it now.
I'll take it. No, I'm serious. It sounds lovely. I'll have it. You have to give it to me. It's got to go somewhere.
But unlike her mother, whose death was out of her control, she felt responsibility for Boo's death. Much like the priest must reconcile his feelings for Fleabag with his love of God, Fleabag must reconcile her love of the priest with her guilt about Boo. It's hard to show a deep emotional connection between characters who've just met. By using the device well established by the show with breaking the fourth wall, Fleabag, the show, can connect these two characters on a deep personal level without ever having to explain it. A stylistic choice like breaking the fourth wall doesn't have to have a direct impact on the narrative, but by using the relationship that it builds with the audience and then subverting it in season 2 is what makes Fleabag so brilliant. Hey, thank you for watching. I just want to let you know my general plan for this channel is to post one of these analysis videos about once a month. I think that's a reasonable amount of time for me to get through the scripting and the production while also dealing with my normal job. And I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So, if you want to hear from me more frequently than once a month, follow me on my social media at Cheatum on Twitter and Instagram. And to close, once again, we'll say those magic YouTube words. Please like and subscribe.